So, I never thought I'd be the kind of person to end up in this situation, but here I am, sharing my story with you all. My name is Chris, and for the past few months, I've been suspecting my wife Emma of cheating on me. I didn't have any solid proof, just a gut feeling that something was off. Emma and I have been married for 10 years, and we've always had a pretty good relationship. We don't have kids, which, in hindsight, might have been a blessing given the current situation. Emma works as a freelance graphic designer, which gives her a lot of flexibility with her schedule. That S part of what made me suspicious. She started going out more, claiming she had to meet clients or attend networking events. One day, I decided to follow her. I felt like a creep, but I needed to know the truth. She left the house around noon, saying she was meeting a new client for lunch. I tailed her car at a safe distance until she pulled into the parking lot of a hotel. Not exactly the place you'd expect for a business meeting, right? I watched as she parked and walked into the hotel, her posture casual but with a hint of excitement. My heart sank. This was it. I got out of my car and followed her inside. The receptionist gave me a curious look as I approached the desk. "Excuse me?" I said, pulling out my phone and showing her a picture of Emma. "Do you know how often this woman visits this hotel?" The receptionist's eyes narrowed slightly, but then she shrugged. "They've been coming here for years. They always come for lunch, about once a month. They were here yesterday, but before that, I hadn't seen them for months." My stomach churned. Years. This had been going on for years. I thanked the receptionist, my mind already racing with thoughts of revenge. I couldn't believe Emma had been doing this behind my back for so long. I needed to know who this guy was. I decided to wait in the lobby, hoping I'd catch a glimpse of him when they left. An hour later, my patience paid off. Emma walked out hand in hand with a tall, handsome man. They were laughing, completely oblivious to the world around them. I followed them to the parking lot, snapping a few pictures on my phone as evidence. This confirmed my suspicions, and I began to plot my revenge. If Emma thought she could humiliate me, she had another thing coming. I wasn't going to let her get away with this. No way in hell. That night I could barely sleep. My mind was racing with anger and betrayal. The images of Emma and her lover laughing and holding hands kept playing in my head. I knew I needed a plan, something that would make them both pay for what they'd done to me. The next morning, I woke up determined. I needed more information, a better understanding of Emma's schedule and this man she was seeing. I decided to hire a private investigator to gather all the details. I found a reputable PI agency online and set up a meeting for that afternoon. The investigator, Tom, was a no-nonsense kind of guy. I explained the situation, showed him the pictures I had taken, and gave him all the details I had about Emma's recent behavior. He nodded thoughtfully, jotting down notes. "I'll get on this right away," he said. "You'll have everything you need to confront her within a week." A week. It felt like an eternity, but I knew it would be worth the wait. In the meantime, I had to keep up appearances, pretending everything was normal at home. It wasn't easy. Every time I looked at Emma, I felt a surge of anger and disgust, but I forced myself to act as if nothing had changed. 3 days later, Tom called me with an update. He had been tailing Emma and her lover, and it turned out the guy's name was David. He was married too, which added an interesting twist to the situation. Tom had gathered enough evidence to confirm that Emma and David had been seeing each other for years. They used the same hotel, the same routine, every month. "Do you want to confront them now, or should we wait for more evidence?" Tom asked. "No," I replied. "What you have is enough. I need to make them pay." I decided it was time to take action. I crafted a plan that would expose them both, publicly and painfully. First, I needed to ensure David's wife knew what was happening. I found her on social media and sent her an anonymous message with the pictures I had taken, along with a brief explanation of what her husband had been doing. Next, I booked a room at the same hotel Emma and David used, planning to catch them in the act. I arranged with Tom to have hidden cameras installed in the room they typically used for their rendezvous. Everything was set up perfectly. The day arrived, and I watched from a safe distance as Emma and David arrived at the hotel, completely unaware of the trap I had set. They checked in, laughing and holding hands as usual. I waited for Tom S.'s signal that the cameras were rolling before making my move. I walked up to the receptionist, showing her a large note with my phone number on it. "Call me in 5 minutes," I instructed her, and she nodded, looking a bit confused but agreeing nonetheless. 5 minutes later, my phone rang. It was the receptionist, just as planned. I answered loudly, making sure my voice echoed through the lobby. "Hello? Yes, I am at the hotel now. I need to know how often my wife visits this place." The receptionist's eyes widened, but she kept her composure. "They've been coming here for years," she replied, loud enough for everyone in the lobby to hear. "They always come for lunch, about once a month. They were here yesterday, but before that, I hadn't seen them for months." The looks of shock and curiosity from the other guests in the lobby were exactly what I had hoped for. It was only a matter of time before word spread, and Emma and David's secret would be out in the open. My heart pounded with a mixture of fear and excitement as I made my way to their room, ready to confront them with all the evidence I had gathered. This was just the beginning, the first step in my plan for cruel revenge. They had no idea what was coming. I took a deep breath as I stood outside their hotel room, my hand hovering over the door handle. This was it, the moment I had been waiting for. I could hear their muffled laughter and casual conversation through the door. It fueled my anger, solidifying my resolve. With one swift motion, I turned the handle and pushed the door open. Emma and David were on the bed, caught completely off guard. Emma's eyes widened in shock, and she jumped up, pulling the sheets around her. David just stared at me, his mouth hanging open. "Chris, what the hell are you doing here?" Emma screamed, her voice a mix of panic and anger. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I held up my phone, playing the live feed from the hidden cameras. Their faces turned pale as they saw themselves on the screen, caught in the act. "I know everything," I said coldly. "I know about your affair. I know how long it's been going on, and now everyone else is going to know too." Emma looked like she might faint, while David scrambled to get dressed. "Chris, please, let's talk about this," Emma pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "It's not what you think." "Oh, it's exactly what I think," I snapped. "You've been lying to me for years. You think I'm going to just let this go?" David, finally dressed, tried to step forward. "Look, man, this is between you and Emma. Let's just calm down and talk." "Don't man me," I shot back. "You think you can walk away from this? You're just as guilty. And your wife? She's going to find out too. I've already sent her the evidence." David's face went from pale to red with anger. He took a step toward me, but I held up a hand to stop him. "You try anything and I'll make sure you regret it," I warned. Emma sobbed uncontrollably now, realizing the gravity of the situation. "Chris, please. I made a mistake. I love you." This meant nothing. I scoffed. "A mistake? This has been going on for years, Emma. Years of lies and betrayal. And you think you can just apologize and make it go away?" I turned to leave, but paused at the door. "Pack your things and get out of the house," I said over my shoulder. "And Dante, come back. We are done." As I walked out of the hotel, I felt a strange mix of relief and anger. The confrontation was over, but my revenge had just begun. I had plans for David, too. He wasn't getting off easy. When I got home, I immediately started working on the next phase. I posted the video footage from the hotel room on a private forum that David's colleagues frequented, making sure it would spread like wildfire. Within hours, the news was all over social media. David's reputation was in ruins, and his wife had already filed for divorce. Meanwhile, I made arrangements to change the locks on the house and contacted a lawyer to start the divorce proceedings. Emma's pleas and attempts to reach me went unanswered. I was done with her. She had made her bed, and now she had to lie in it. The next few days were a whirlwind of activity. Friends and family reached out, shocked by the news, offering their support. I appreciated it, but I was focused on my plan. There was one more thing I needed to do to ensure they both paid for what they had done. I scheduled a meeting with David's boss, providing him with all the evidence I had gathered, including proof of how their affair had affected their work. David was fired on the spot, his career in shambles. As for Emma, she moved out, staying with a friend. She kept trying to reach me, to explain, to apologize, but I didn't want to hear it. I was done being the fool. I was ready to move on, to start a new chapter in my life. But before I could do that, I had one last card to play. Something that would ensure neither of them would ever forget the consequences of their actions. The satisfaction of seeing Emma and David's lives unravel was sweet, but I wasn't finished yet. I had one more move to make, one that would leave a lasting impact on both of them. First, I needed to gather more intel. I asked Tom, the private investigator, to dig deeper into David's background. I wanted to know everything, his secrets, his weaknesses. Tom came back with some interesting information. David had a penchant for gambling and had racked up a significant amount of debt. Perfect. With this new information, I devised a plan that would ensure David's downfall. I contacted one of David's biggest creditors, posing as a concerned friend. I told them about his affair, his impending divorce, and hinted that he might try to skip town to avoid his debts. They were very interested in what I had to say. Next, I turned my attention to Emma. She had been staying with a friend, but I knew she wouldn't be able to stay there forever. I needed to make sure she felt the full weight of her actions. I decided to send her a message she couldn't ignore. I waited until she left the friend's house one afternoon. I knew her routine well enough to predict when she'd be out. Then I placed an envelope on her friend's doorstep, addressed to Emma. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message that simply read, "This is just the beginning." Later that evening, Emma called me, her voice trembling with fear. "Chris, I got your message. Please, can we talk? I can't live like this. I'm sorry, I'll do anything to make it right." I remained silent for a moment, letting her desperation sink in. "Meet me at the park tomorrow morning," I finally said. "We'll talk then." The next morning I arrived at the park early, sitting on a bench and waiting for Emma. She showed up, looking haggard and tired. She sat down next to me, her eyes red from crying. "Chris, please," she began. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But can we find a way to move past this? I miss you. I love you." I looked at her, feeling a mixture of anger and pity. "You didn't just hurt me, Emma. You betrayed me in the worst possible way, for years. How can you expect me to move past that?" Tears streamed down her face. "I don't know what I was thinking. I was stupid and selfish. But I realize now how much I've lost. Can we at least try to rebuild what we had?" I sighed, pretending to consider her words. "Emma, it's not that simple. Trust is broken, and it takes more than just words to fix that." "I'll do anything," she pleaded. "Just tell me what to do." "All right," I said, my voice cold. "First, I need you to understand that there are consequences to your actions. You need to face them head on. And second, you need to stay away from David, completely. If I even hear that you have been in contact with him, any chance of reconciliation is off the table." She nodded eagerly. "I promise. I'll stay away from him. I'll do whatever it takes." I stood up, looking down at her. "Good. Now go back to your friend's place and pack your things. You can move back into the house, but understand that this is your last chance. Don't mess it up." Emma agreed, relief washing over her face. She left the park, presumably to start packing, but I wasn't finished yet. I had one final card to play against David. With Tom's help, I had tracked down his gambling associates. I met with them, providing them with all the dirt I had on David, and making sure they knew he was in deep trouble. They were eager to make sure he paid up, and I knew they'd make his life a living hell. Over the next few days, I watched as David's world crumbled. His wife had left him, he was out of a job, and now his gambling debts were catching up to him. He was a broken man, just like I had planned. As for Emma, she moved back into the house, but things were different. I kept my distance, making sure she understood that trust had to be earned. She tried her best to make amends, but I remained wary, always watching for any signs of deceit. In the end, I didn't know if we could ever fully rebuild what we had. But for now, I was content knowing that those who had wronged me had paid a heavy price, and that was enough to keep me going. The next few weeks were tense. Emma was back in the house, but it didn't feel like home anymore. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was awkward and strained. She was trying hard to make things right, cooking my favorite meals, cleaning the house meticulously, and even planning activities for us to do together. But I couldn't shake off the betrayal. One evening, I was sitting in the living room staring blankly at the TV when Emma walked in and sat down next to me. "Chris, can we talk?" she asked softly. I sighed, not really in the mood for another heavy conversation. "Sure, what is it? I know things have been rough, and I understand if you need more time, but I want to know if there is any hope for us," she said, her voice trembling. I looked at her, seeing the genuine pain in her eyes. "Emma, I don't know what you did. It's hard to forgive, it's hard to forget. Every time I look at you, I see the betrayal." She nodded, tears welling up. "I know, and I'm so sorry. I just want to fix this. I love you, Chris." I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Tom, the PI. "You need to see this," it read, with a video attachment. I frowned and opened the video, my heart sinking as I watched. The video showed Emma meeting David at a coffee shop. They were talking animatedly, and then David leaned in to kiss her. Emma didn't pull away. I felt a surge of rage and betrayal all over again. "What is it?" Emma asked, noticing my change in demeanor. I looked at her, my eyes cold. "You said you'd stay away from him," I said, showing her the video. Emma's face turned pale as she watched the video. "Chris, I save it," I snapped. "You lied again. I gave you one last chance and you blew it." Tears streamed down her face. "Please, Chris. It wasn't what it looked like. He just showed up and I was trying to tell him it was over." I shook my head, standing up. "I don't care anymore, Emma. I'm done with your lies. You need to leave." Emma broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. "Please, Chris, don't do this. I love you. I'll do anything." But I was beyond caring. I walked out of the house, slamming the door behind me. I needed to clear my head. I drove around aimlessly, trying to make sense of everything. How could she do this to me again? That night, I stayed at a hotel, needing space from Emma and the memories of our broken relationship. The next morning, I returned to the house, finding Emma still there, her bags packed. "Chris, please, let's talk," she begged. "No," I said firmly. "It is over, Emma. I can't keep living like this. You need to leave." She nodded, defeated. She picked up her bags and walked out the door, tears streaming down her face. As she drove away, I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. It was really over. I called Tom, thanking him for his help and letting him know that Emma was gone for good. He offered to keep an eye on David, but I told him it wasn't necessary. David's life was already falling apart, and I had done enough damage. Over the next few weeks, I started to rebuild my life. I focused on my work, spent time with friends, and tried to move on. Emma tried to contact me a few times, but I ignored her calls and messages. I needed to heal, and I couldn't do that with her in my life. One evening, I received a call from an unknown number. It was David's wife. She thanked me for sending her the evidence and told me that she had filed for divorce. She was moving on with her life, and she hoped I could do the same. Hearing her strength and determination gave me hope. If she could move on, so could I. I decided it was time to stop dwelling on the past and start looking towards the future. A few months later, I met someone new. Her name was Lisa, and she was kind, understanding, and everything I needed to heal. We took things slow, and I was honest with her about my past. She accepted me, flaws and all, and for the first time in a long time, I felt hopeful. Emma and David were just painful memories now, lessons learned the hard way. I had come out stronger, wiser, and ready to start a new chapter in my life. And this time, I was determined to make it right. Meeting Lisa felt like a breath of fresh air. She was everything I needed: compassionate, understanding, and incredibly patient. She knew about my past and the betrayal I'd endured, and she never once judged me for it. Instead, she offered me a safe space to heal. We started spending more time together, going on casual dates and enjoying each other's company. Lisa had this calming presence that made me feel at ease. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. One evening, we decided to have dinner at my place. It was a simple meal, but it felt significant. As we sat on the couch afterward, talking about everything and nothing, I realized how much I had missed this feeling of connection. "Chris," Lisa said softly, "I know you've been through a lot. I just want you to know that I'm here for you. You don't have to go through this alone." I looked at her, feeling a surge of gratitude. Thank you, Lisa. You have no idea how much that means to me. She smiled and leaned in, kissing me gently. It was a tender moment, one that marked the beginning of something new and beautiful. Over the next few weeks, our relationship blossomed. I introduced Lisa to my friends, and they immediately liked her. She fit into my life seamlessly, bringing a sense of normalcy that I desperately needed. One weekend, we decided to take a short trip to a cabin in the mountains. It was the perfect getaway, just the two of us, away from the chaos of our everyday lives. As we sat by the fireplace one evening, Lisa turned to me with a serious expression. "Chris, I need to ask you something," she said. "Of course," I replied, a bit nervous about what she might say. "Do you think you're ready to move on? I mean, really move on from Emma and everything that happened?" Her question took me by surprise, but it was something I had been thinking about a lot. "I think I am," I said slowly. "Emma will always be a part of my past, but I don't want her to dictate my future. I want to build something new with you." Lisa's face lit up with a smile. "I'm glad to hear that, because I really care about you, Chris, and I want us to have a future together." We spent the rest of the weekend talking about our hopes and dreams, and by the time we returned home, I felt more at peace than I had in a long time. However, just when I thought I had left the past behind, Emma reappeared in my life. She showed up at my doorstep one evening, looking worn and desperate. "Chris, can we talk?" she pleaded. I hesitated, not wanting to let her back into my life, but I also felt a need for closure. "Fine, but make it quick," I said, stepping aside to let her in. Emma sat down on the couch, wringing her hands nervously. "I know I'm the last person you want to see right now, but I need to apologize. I know I hurt you deeply, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Emma, I've moved on," I said firmly. "I am with someone new now, and I am happy. I don't need your apology. I just need you to stay away." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I understand. I just wanted you to know that I am truly sorry. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me someday." I nodded, feeling a strange sense of relief. "I appreciate that, Emma. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I wish you well, but we are done." As she left, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. It was the closure I needed, the final step in moving forward. When I told Lisa about Emma's visit, she was supportive and understanding. "I am proud of you, Chris," she said. "You handled that with grace." With Emma finally out of the picture, I felt free to focus entirely on my future with Lisa. Our relationship grew stronger with each passing day, and I started to see a future that was filled with hope and happiness. One evening, as we were having dinner at our favorite restaurant, I took her hand in mine. "Lisa, I know it has only been a few months, but I feel like I've known you forever. You've brought so much joy into my life, and I can't imagine my future without you. Will you move in with me?" Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. "Yes, Chris, I'd love to." We spent the next few weeks preparing for her move, and soon enough, our home was filled with laughter and love. It felt right. It felt like home. But life has a way of throwing curveballs, and just when I thought things were finally perfect, an unexpected event threatened to shake our newfound happiness. Life was finally falling into place. Lisa and I were happy, and our home was filled with joy and laughter. But just as everything seemed perfect, fate had other plans. It started with a phone call. One evening, as Lisa and I were preparing dinner, my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen and saw an unknown number. Normally, I wouldn't have answered, but something made me pick up. "Hello, Chris? It's Tom, the PI. I need to talk to you. It is urgent." My heart sank. What could be so urgent now? "What's going on, Tom? There's something you need to know about Emma. Can you meet me tomorrow?" I hesitated, not wanting to get dragged back into the drama, but curiosity got the better of me. "All right, where and when?" We arranged to meet at a local cafe the next morning. I hung up, feeling a knot of anxiety in my stomach. Lisa noticed immediately. "Is everything okay?" she asked. Concern etched on her face. "I'm not sure," I admitted. "Tom, the PI, just called. He says it is urgent and has something to tell me about Emma." Lisa's brow furrowed. "Do you want me to come with you?" I shook my head. "No, it's just okay. I'll handle it. I just hope it's not more bad news. The next morning, I arrived at the cafe and spotted Tom sitting at a corner table. He looked more serious than usual, which did nothing to calm my nerves. "Chris, thanks for coming," he said as I sat down. "What is this about, Tom?" He leaned in, lowering his voice. "I've been keeping tabs on Emma and David, as you requested. Recently, Emma been visiting a clinic frequently. I did some digging and found out she has been diagnosed with a serious illness. My mind raced, trying to process the information. What kind of illness? Cancer. It's advanced, and her prognosis isn't good. I felt a pang of guilt and sadness. Despite everything, Emma had been a significant part of my life for years. Does she know I know? Tom shook his head. I don't think so. She's kept it pretty quiet. Only a few people know. Thanks for telling me, Tom. I need some time to think about this. I left the cafe, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. How was I supposed to feel? Anger, pity, sadness, all of it swirled together, leaving me confused. I needed to talk to Lisa. When I got home, Lisa was waiting for me. "How did it go?" she asked, her eyes full of concern. I took a deep breath. "Emma has cancer. It is advanced, and her prognosis isn't good." Lisa's face softened with sympathy. "Oh, Chris, I'm so sorry. How are you feeling?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I'm angry and sad and guilty all at once. Despite everything, I can't help but feel sorry for her." Lisa nodded, understanding. "It's just okay to feel that way. You loved her once, and it is natural to feel conflicted. What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet. I need some time to process this." The next few days were tough. I couldn't stop thinking about Emma and what she must be going through. Despite the betrayal, I didn't need to want her to suffer alone. One evening, I made a decision. "Lisa, I think I need to see Emma. Just to talk, to offer support." Lisa looked at me, her expression unreadable. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" "I don't know, but it feels like the right thing to do." She nodded slowly. "Okay, just be careful. I don't want you to get hurt again." I reached out to Emma through a mutual friend, arranging to meet her at a quiet park. When I saw her, she looked frail and tired, a shadow of the vibrant woman she used to be. "Chris," she said softly, her eyes welling up with tears. "I didn't expect to see you." "I heard about your illness," I said, sitting down beside her. "I just wanted to see how you were doing." She smiled weakly. "I'm managing. It's been hard, but I'm trying to stay strong." We talked for a while, reminiscing about better times and acknowledging the pain we had caused each other. Despite everything, it felt good to clear the air. "Thank you for coming, Chris," she said as we parted. "It means a lot. Take care of yourself, Emma." As I walked away, I felt a strange sense of closure. It was as if a weight had been lifted, allowing me to move forward with my life more freely. Back home, I told Lisa about the meeting. She listened patiently, her eyes filled with understanding. "How do you feel now?" she asked. "Better, I think." It was good to talk to her, to clear the air, but I am ready to move on, with you. Lisa smiled and took my hand. "I'm here for you, Chris. Always." With that chapter finally closed, I felt more hopeful about the future. Lisa and I continued to build our life together, knowing that whatever came our way, we would face it together. But just as I thought we had weathered the worst, life threw yet another curveball our way. Life seemed to settle into a routine after my meeting with Emma. I felt a sense of peace and closure, ready to move forward with Lisa. Our relationship grew stronger, and I was genuinely happy for the first time in a long while. Then, one afternoon, as Lisa and I were enjoying a lazy Sunday at home, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a middle-aged woman standing there, looking distraught. "Chris?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes, that's me," I replied, confused. "Can I help you? I am Sarah, David's wife. Can I come in? I need to talk to you." My heart sank. I hadn't expected this. I stepped aside, letting her in. Lisa looked at me, concern etched on her face as Sarah sat down on the couch. "I'm sorry to barge in like this," Sarah began, "but I didn't know who else to turn to. David's gone missing." "What?" I exclaimed, shock coursing through me. "Yes," she continued, tears welling up in her eyes. "After everything came out about his affair with Emma and his gambling debts, things got worse. He lost his job and his creditors were hounding him. 2 days ago, he just disappeared. No note, nothing. I am terrified something has happened to him. I exchanged a worried glance with Lisa. This was not the news I had expected or wanted. Despite my anger towards David, I didn't wish harm upon him. Have you contacted the police? I asked. Yes, but they haven't found any leads. I thought maybe you might know something, given everything that happened. I shook my head. I haven't heard anything, but I'll do what I can to help. I know a private investigator who might be able to find something. Sarah nodded, relief washing over her face. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it more than you know. After she left, I called Tom and explained the situation. He agreed to look into it, promising to update me as soon as he found anything. Days passed with no news. I tried to focus on my life with Lisa, but the worry gnawed at me. Then one evening, Tom called. Chris, I've got something. You need to come to my office. I arrived at Tom's office, my heart pounding. He handed me a file, his expression grim. I found David, he said. He is in a small town a few hours away staying at a rundown motel. He's using a fake name, but I am certain it's him. Why did he run? I asked, still processing the information. From what I gathered, he's hiding from his creditors. He's in bad shape, Chris. I don't think he has anywhere else to go. I thanked Tom and drove back home, my mind racing. Should I tell Sarah? Should I confront David myself? I needed to talk to Lisa. When I walked in, Lisa was waiting for me, worry written all over her face. Did Tom find him? She asked. Yes, I said, sitting down heavily. He's hiding in a small town using a fake name. He's in trouble, Lisa. Big trouble. She sat next to me, taking my hand. What are you going to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to confront him, to make him face the consequences of his actions. But another part of me feels like I should just let him be. Lisa squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide, I am here for you. Just remember, you don't owe him anything. He made his choices. I nodded, appreciating her support. The next morning, I decided to tell Sarah. She deserved to know the truth. I called her and arranged to meet at a cafe. When I told her about David, she burst into tears. Thank you, Chris. I need to see him. I need to understand why he did this. I offered to drive her there, feeling it was the least I could do. We arrived at the motel late in the afternoon. Sarah was visibly shaking as we approached David's room. She knocked on the door, and after a few moments, it creaked open. David stood there, looking gaunt and defeated. Sarah? He croaked, his voice barely a whisper. David, she said, her voice breaking. Why did you do this? Why did you leave without a word? He let us in, and as we sat down, he began to explain. The debts, the guilt, the overwhelming pressure, it had all become too much. He felt like he had no way out. I am sorry, he said, tears streaming down his face. I messed up. I didn't know how to fix it, so I ran. Sarah hugged him, and for a moment, I saw a glimmer of hope. Maybe they could find a way to rebuild, to heal from this. I left them alone, feeling a strange sense of closure. David's life was a mess, but he was still alive. He had a chance to make things right. When I returned home, Lisa was waiting. I told her everything, and she hugged me tightly. You did the right thing, Chris. You gave them a chance to heal. I nodded, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. For the first time in a long while, I felt at peace. The past was behind me, and I was ready to embrace the future with Lisa by my side. But life, unpredictable as ever, had one more surprise in store for us. Just when I thought we had faced all the challenges, the unexpected happened, forcing us to confront our deepest fears and strengthen our bond even more. Life seemed to settle once more after helping Sarah and David. I was ready to fully embrace my future with Lisa, confident that we could face anything together. We were stronger than ever, but life, as always, had another twist in store for us. One morning, Lisa woke up feeling unusually nauseous. At first, we thought it was just something she ate, but as the days went by, her symptoms persisted. I suggested she see a doctor, and she agreed. A few days later, she came back from the doctor's office looking pale and shocked. Chris, she said, her voice trembling, I am pregnant. I was stunned. We hadn't planned for this, but as the news sank in, a mixture of joy and fear washed over me. Are you sure? I asked, needing to confirm it. She nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. Yes, I'm sure. The doctor confirmed it. I pulled her into a hug, holding her close. This is unexpected, but it's not bad news, Lisa. We'll get through this together. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with uncertainty. Are you sure, Chris? With everything that happened, are we ready for this? I smiled, kissing her forehead. Life is full of surprises. We'll figure it out. We've been through so much already. We can handle this too. As the weeks passed, we adjusted to the idea of becoming parents. We went to Dr. S appointments together, started preparing the nursery, and discussed baby names. It was a whirlwind of emotions, but it brought us even closer. One evening, as we sat on the couch, Lisa turned to me with a serious expression. Chris, there's something I need to tell you. I felt a pang of anxiety. What is it? I know you've had a lot to deal with because of Emma and David, and I didn't want to add to your stress, but I've been keeping something from you. My heart raced. What do you mean? She took a deep breath. Before we met, I was in a relationship with someone who hurt me deeply. He was controlling and abusive. It took me a long time to get away from him, and I've been afraid he might come back. I felt a surge of protectiveness. Lisa, why didn't you tell me? You don't have to face this alone. She looked down, tears in her eyes. I was scared. I didn't want to burden you with my past. But with the baby coming, I realized I need to be honest. I want us to have a fresh start without any secrets. I hugged her tightly. Thank you for telling me. We'll deal with this together. I want to let anyone hurt you or our baby. We decided to take precautions, informing the authorities about her ex and ensuring our home was secure. It was a stressful time, but it also reinforced our commitment to each other and our growing family. As Lisa's pregnancy progressed, we focused on the positive. We attended prenatal classes, shopped for baby clothes, and spent hours talking about our future. It was a new beginning, one that filled me with hope and excitement. Then one night, as we were getting ready for bed, there was a loud knock on the door. My heart skipped a beat. Who could that be at this hour? I wondered. I opened the door to find a police officer standing there. Mr. Chris, we need to talk. It is about Emma. Emma? What happened? I asked, my mind racing. She is in the hospital. She has asked to see you. It is urgent. I felt a knot in my stomach. Despite everything, I couldn't ignore her plea. I turned to Lisa, who had followed me to the door. I need to go. It is Emma. She is in the hospital. Lisa nodded, understanding. Go. I'll be here when you get back. I rushed to the hospital, my mind filled with worry. When I arrived, I found Emma in a hospital bed, looking frail and weak. She smiled weakly when she saw me. Chris, thank you for coming, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Emma, what happened? Are you okay? I asked, sitting down beside her. She shook her head. I'm not okay, Chris. The cancer, it has spread. The doctor said I don't have much time left. I felt a lump in my throat. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel a deep sadness. I am so sorry, Emma. She took my hand, her grip weak. I needed to see you to apologize one last time. I know I hurt you, and I've regretted it every day since. I just wanted you to know that I am truly sorry. Tears filled my eyes. I forgave you, Emma. I hope you can find peace. She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek. Thank you, Chris. That means more to me than you will ever know. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of the past and the reality of the present hanging between us. When I left the hospital that night, I felt a strange sense of closure. Emma's chapter in my life was finally ending. I returned home to Lisa, who hugged me tightly. How was she? She asked. She's not doing well, I said, my voice heavy with emotion, but I think she found some peace. Lisa held me, offering comfort and strength. We'll get through this, Chris, together. As we prepared for the arrival of our baby, we knew that life would always be unpredictable, but with love and support, we could face anything. We were ready to embrace our future, whatever it might hold, knowing that we had each other. The months flew by as Lisa's pregnancy progressed. We focused on preparing for the baby, transforming our spare room into a cozy nursery and attending parenting classes together. Despite the occasional anxiety about the future, we felt ready to embark on this new chapter of our lives. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take a walk in the park. Lisa was glowing, her hand resting on her growing belly. We talked about our hopes and dreams for our child, feeling a sense of excitement and anticipation. Just as we were about to head back home, Lisa suddenly stopped and winced, clutching her belly. "Chris, I think it's time," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and pain. Panic and excitement surged through me. "Okay, let's get you to the hospital," I said, trying to stay calm. I helped her into the car, and we made our way to the hospital, my heart racing the entire time. After what felt like an eternity, Lisa was settled in a delivery room. The doctors and nurses moved quickly, preparing for the arrival of our baby. I stayed by Lisa's side, holding her hand and reassuring her as best as I could. Hours later, after a whirlwind of emotions and efforts, the room was filled with the sound of a baby's first cry. Tears streamed down my face as the doctor placed our newborn daughter in Lisa's arms. She looked up at me, her eyes filled with love and joy. "Chris, meet our daughter," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. I looked at our tiny, perfect baby and felt a surge of love like nothing I had ever experienced. "She is beautiful," I said, my voice choked with tears. "What should we name her?" Lisa smiled, a tear slipping down her cheek. "How about Grace?" I nodded, feeling the name was perfect. Grace it is. The first few days at home with Grace were a blur of sleepless nights and overwhelming joy. Lisa and I took turns caring for her, marveling at every little sound and movement she made. Our lives had changed completely, and we couldn't have been happier. One evening, as I rocked Grace to sleep, I thought about the journey that had led us here. The pain and betrayal of the past seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by the love and hope that filled our home now. Lisa joined me, wrapping her arms around my waist. "We did it," she whispered, resting her head on my shoulder. "Yeah, we did," I replied, kissing her forehead, "and we'll keep doing it, together." Life settled into a new routine. We faced the challenges of parenthood with determination and love, knowing that we could get through anything as long as we had each other. One day, as I was cleaning out the attic, I stumbled upon a box of old photos and letters. I sat down and sifted through them, reminiscing about the past. I found pictures of Emma and me during happier times, as well as letters we had written to each other. I felt a pang of sadness, but also a sense of closure. Emma's passing had been difficult, but it had also marked the end of a painful chapter in my life. I had forgiven her, and in doing so, I had freed myself to fully embrace my future with Lisa and Grace. As I was about to put the box away, I found an old journal I had kept during my time with Emma. I opened it and read a few entries, reflecting on how much I had grown and changed since then. The experiences, though painful, had shaped me into the person I was today. I closed the journal and put it back in the box, feeling a sense of peace. I had learned that life was unpredictable, filled with both joy and sorrow. But through it all, I had found strength, love, and hope. When I went back downstairs, Lisa was playing with Grace, her laughter filling the room. I watched them for a moment, feeling an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Despite everything, I had found happiness and a new beginning. I joined them, scooping Grace into my arms. She giggled, her tiny hands reaching for my face. Lisa smiled at me, her eyes sparkling with love. "Life is pretty amazing, isn't it?" she said. "Yeah, it really is," I replied, feeling content and hopeful for the future. As we sat together, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Our journey had been filled with unexpected twists and turns, but it had brought us to this beautiful moment, and I couldn't wait to see what the future held for our little family.